Coming up today, an earthquake with a magnitude of 6.5 has struck southern Japan, followed by strong aftershocks. At least 3 people are dead and more than 200 injured. The leaders of Korea's political parties speak to the people after voters rendered their verdict at this week's general election. The head of the defeated Saenuri Party steps down from his post. Plus, South Korea's defense ministry warns North Korea could be gearing up to launch an intermediate-range ballistic missile in the coming days. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello, it's 6 a.m. on Friday, the 15th of April. You're tuned in to our 6 a.m. newscast here on Arirang TV. Thank you for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this morning, a powerful earthquake has rocked the southern part of Japan, bringing down buildings and leaving at least 3 people dead and more than 200 injured. Search operations are ongoing for people who might be trapped under the rubble. The 6.5 magnitude quake struck just before 9:30 p.m. on Thursday night local time at a depth of 11 kilometers near Kumamoto City on the island of Kyushu. Scores of aftershocks have been rattling the area, hampering rescue efforts. Authorities say around 20 homes crumbled during the earthquake, and there are several reports of people being stuck under collapsed buildings. Thousands of homes remain without power this morning, and gas supplies have been cut off to prevent further damage. Residents have been evacuated to safer surrounding areas as well. The authority advised caution, saying that aftershocks are expected to persist for around a week. Now, the dust is settling on the general election results that caught pretty much everyone by surprise. The Liberal Minju Party won more seats than the now former ruling Saenuri Party, an outcome no one really predicted. The People's Party also had a fruitful election, cementing its place as a legitimate third party in the National Assembly. On Thursday, the leaders of the 3 main parties addressed the people. Park Ji-won reports.
The election results were particularly painful for the ruling Saenuri Party, which failed to achieve its minimum goal of securing a majority in parliament. Taking responsibility for his party's disappointing performance, party leader Kim Moo-sung, who had previously said he would resign after the election regardless of the result, stepped down from his post this Thursday morning.
The public judged us with fierce whips, and we suffered a crushing defeat. This all happened because we forgot that politics is all about respecting and fearing the public. The Saenuri Party is responsible for all the results, and we accept it as a strict command from the public, never to fail them again.
The main opposition Minju Party of Korea, which fared very well considering the liberal vote was split with the new minor opposition People's Party in the picture, thanked the public for its support. Interim leader Kim Jong-un said Thursday morning the election results represent the public's judgment on the incumbent government, particularly its economic policies.
The Park Geun-hye administration and the Saenuri Party had to realize at this point that it was all about the economy. It is just natural that a government that failed to address the livelihoods of the people will be judged by the election. That's the power of the ballot, which is stronger than bullets.
The minor opposition People's Party also thanked the public for their votes. The party has emerged as a real winner here, as it will now play a crucial role when a majority is necessary at the National Assembly. The party's co-leader An Chol-soo said this election demonstrates the country's desire for change.
This election was not a victory for politicians, but for the people. It was a command to practice politics not for the sake of politicians, but for the people. We will be more humble and we will listen to the voices of the people.
The minor opposition Justice Party, which garnered 6 seats, also said the election showed the public's desire for change and its wish to end the worn-out two-party system. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, Korea's Saenuri Party will form an emergency committee following the resignation of its leader Kim Moo-sung, who stepped down, as we heard, on Thursday to take responsibility for his party's crushing defeat in the general election. Won Yu-chol will lead the emergency committee, and committee members will be selected in a vote by party members. The party will also dissolve its 5-member Supreme Council, as Representative Kim Tae-ho announced he is resigning as well, and 2 other member lawmakers lost their seats in the election. The Saenuri Party also announced it will allow independent candidates elected to Parliament to return to the party if they want, in an effort to rebuild the party's status in the National Assembly. The election results have put President Park Geun-hye, who has under 2 years left in office, in a difficult position when it comes to her policy initiatives. With the details on the reaction from the nation's top office, Song Ji-sun reports.
Speaking in response to the Saenuri Party's crushing defeat, the presidential office of Cheong Wa-dae said the new look National Assembly should strive to improve the livelihoods of the people.
We hope the 20th National Assembly will truly care about the livelihoods of the people and work for their best interests. We believe the people's demand for that has been reflected in this election.
Reading between the lines, the statement represents a call for cooperation from the newly elected lawmakers to help the administration's efforts to revive the economy. 2016 is a key year for President Park Geun-hye's policy initiatives, as it is the final year of the president's 3-year economic innovation plan and a finish line for a push for major reforms. President Park has continued to call on the parliament to pass related bills, saying that legislation completes policy initiatives. But those initiatives stand little chance of being approved by the Liberal Minju Party of Korea and the People's Party, which now have a combined 161 seats to the Saenuri's 122. Now that the conservative Saenuri Party no longer has the parliamentary majority, President Park may have to shift strategies in order to persuade the Liberal parties to pass the bills crucial to her policy drives. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
More than 100 men and women who won seats in the National Assembly in Wednesday's general election have been booked with potentially violating election laws, and if found guilty, they could be stripped of their new titles. Kwon Jang-oh has the details.
As the dust settles on the general election, it seems a new storm is in the forecast. State prosecutors announced on Thursday, a day after the April 13th general election, that they have booked 104 elected lawmakers for violating election campaign laws. That's more than 1 in 3 lawmakers elect. If any of them are found guilty, they could lose their seats and be given a prison sentence, as well as a minimum fine of around $900. The charges include negative or slanderous campaigning, bribery, and manipulation of public opinion through social media and opinion polls. The investigation covers over 1,400 people who were involved in the general election, such as campaign managers, accountants, and family members. Compared to the 2012 parliamentary elections, this is an increase of over 30%. That year, almost 1,100 people were booked, and 79 of them were elected lawmakers. Of the 79, 30 were indicted, and 10 eventually lost their seats.
Currently, the leading parties are separated by 1 seat. We don't know who and which party are involved, but the implications of the investigation could be big.
The nature of charges have changed since 2012, with a decrease in bribery in particular. On the other hand, there has been a marked increase in tampering with opinion polls and social media marketing.
It's a commercialization of politics, and the situation is pretty bad compared to other countries. The National Election Commission is working to root out corruption through election laws, but it's still a work in progress.
The prosecutors have promised to move swiftly, as they only have 6 months to present the cases before the statute of limitations on the charges runs out. Kwon Jang-oh, Arirang News.
Now, in the rest of the day's news, there are growing signs North Korea could conduct a ballistic missile launch or even a nuclear test soon. For more on the latest developments and how South Korea's military is reacting, Kim Hyun-bin reports.
A spokesman for Seoul's defense ministry said Thursday that North Korea is capable of conducting a 5th nuclear test, an intercontinental ballistic missile launch, at any given moment.
Kim Jong-un ordered his troops to prepare for a nuclear-tipped ballistic missile test on March 15th. We believe that there is a possibility Pyongyang could conduct a fifth nuclear test and ballistic missile launch, including a launch of a Musudan missile.
The statement comes as Pyongyang prepares for a rare ruling party convention in May, the first in over 3 decades.
Kim Jong-un will want to produce results out of the Workers' Party Congress, so there's a high possibility he will conduct a fifth nuclear test or fire Musudan or ICBM.
Government sources in South Korea also pointed out on Thursday that North Korea has dispatched a mid-range Musudan missile and intermediate ballistic missiles to Wonsan in the North Gangwon-do province, located on the eastern coast of the peninsula. And they have been sitting idle for 20 days. The sources said that there is a high possibility that the regime might be planning on firing the rockets during its founder Kim Il-sung's birthday, which falls on Friday. Experts said that Pyongyang could fire either the Musudan missile or a KN-08 or KN-14 ICBM. The Musudan has a range of 3,000 kilometers, while the KN-08 and KN-14 have ranges of roughly 12,000 and 10,000. Both are capable of reaching parts of the U.S. mainland.
South Korea's defense ministry is keeping an eye out for potential provocations from the north in the coming days and weeks. Friday is Kim Il-sung's birthday, the regime's founder, and Pyongyang is set to hold its Workers' Party of Congress in early May, the first of its kind in 36 years. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, as a follow-up to that report, North Korea's road-mobile KN-08 intercontinental ballistic missile is believed to be capable of launching a nuclear warhead to much of the continental United States. U.S. Northern Commander Admiral William Gortney made the comments this week in a written testimony for a Senate Armed Services Committee hearing amid growing concerns that Pyongyang could soon conduct its first mobile missile test. Now, while the KN-08 remains untested, Gortney said the modelling suggests it could deliver a nuclear payload to much of the continental US. He added that Kim Jong-un is unlikely to attack the US unless he perceives an imminent threat to his regime's survival. Brian McKeon, Principal Deputy Under-Secretary of Defense, said the US and South Korea have begun consultations about deploying the THAAD missile defense system to the Korean peninsula to defend against North Korea's missile threats. He said the two allies would engage in discussions about a possible site before making an announcement. The National Tax Service of Korea is joining dozens of other global tax agencies to tackle tax avoidance in the wake of the Panama Papers scandal. But is it too little, too late? Hwang Ho-jun reports.
35 national tax agencies around the world, including South Korea's National Tax Service, decided to tackle the rising issue of offshore tax evasions since the Panama Papers expose. Korea's National Tax Service has been assessed to have one of the best capabilities in database analysis, and the agency will proactively work with the other 34 members of the Joint International Tax Shelter Information and Collaboration to combat tax evasions through close cooperation in sharing critical information. The NTS, however, stresses the significance of acknowledging that not all usages of tax havens are necessarily illegal, and that it's risky to release the suspect's name without thorough investigation.
It can give the opportunity to those who are really guilty to destruct evidence. Conversely, it can damage the reputation of those who are innocent. That's why we want to be precautious, especially since we are the nation's tax agency.
Despite efforts of financial watchdogs around the world, the rising international fury from the so-called Panama Papers leaks is only likely to get more intense. Oxfam reported Thursday that the 50 biggest U.S. companies stashed away $1.4 trillion in tax havens around the world from 2008 to 2014. According to the anti-poverty charities report, Apple topped the list with $181 billion held offshore. Boston-based conglomerate General Electric was a runner-up with $119 billion hidden in tax havens, followed by Microsoft with $108 billion. Pharmaceuticals giant Pfizer, Google's Alphabet, and oil company ExxonMobil were also on the list. The allegation is more daunting as the American corporations have been receiving trillions of dollars in taxpayer support. Hwang Ho-jun, Arirang News.
Well, that's all we have for now on this Friday morning here in Seoul, Korea. I'm Mark Broom. Thank you as always for watching, and we'll be back throughout the day with more newscasts. Our next scheduled one coming up at 10 a.m. Korea time. So until then, goodbye.